France's far right is taking to the streets across the country today in support of the Nationalrally's Marine Le Pen, who on Monday was found guilty of embezzling EU funds and barred from running for public office. But former Prime Minister Gabriel Attal accuses the party of attacking France's judges after judges in the case have faced death threats since the sentencing this week. Also protesting in Paris will be France's left, who are mounting a challenge to the Nationalrally. For more on this, I can welcome in Renaud Foucart, who is an Associate Professor of Economics at Lancaster University. Good afternoon, Renaud, and thank you for joining us. The Nationalrally says its protest today is in support of Marine Le Pen after her conviction for embezzlement, but French Prime Minister François Bayrou says it is a protest against a court ruling. Is this likely to put further pressure on French judges following death threats that some of them have faced this week?
Clearly, that's the goal. The goal is to put increasing pressure on the judges. So Marine Le Pen already managed to secure something exceptional in France, that she will get an appeal before the next presidential election. And her hope is to be able to get, in that case, she will be convicted because the proofs are overwhelming. But her hope is that the appeal judges will not dare to confirm the 5-year ineligibility. So if they choose 18 months, she can run. So the goal is clearly to say, we want to put pressure on the judge. We don't want the law to apply the same way to Marine Le Pen. We want the people to decide, not the judges.
As you mentioned there, it's likely that she will be able to have her appeal in good time to run in 2027 if theoretically her disqualification is overturned. Is it likely that the judges might perhaps they might keep the conviction, but they might overturn the disqualification?
Well, I'm not in the head of the judges, but one thing is sure is that the Rassemblement National, Le Pen, they're not denying the core of the case. So they're not denying that they took European Parliament money to to pay for the butler of the father of Le Pen, for the sister of Le Pen, for a driver. They're not denying that they used European Parliament money to do French politics. So that is illegal, and that will happen. The second part, which is clearly something on which the judge has some discretion, is that it is compulsory by law in France that they give an eligibility to Marine Le Pen if she's found convicted. But what they could do is to say, okay, the pressure is so high, we're so close to the election, we prefer to bow down and let her go. I think it's quite unlikely, but the goal of the demonstration, again, is to put that kind of pressure, to put the judges in an impossible situation in which they feel they have themselves to make a choice which should not be the choice of the judges. They should apply the law, they should not do politics, but the closer to the next election it is, the more pressure they would face.
Now, the Nationalrally is not being barred from taking part in the next presidential election. How would they possibly fare without Marine Le Pen if that were to turn out to be the case?
Officially, there is one heir, which is Jordan Bardella. There are several problems with Jordan Bardella. One of them is that Jordan Bardella himself, he just lost a libel trial against Libération, a French newspaper, that showed that he was himself also taking a fake European Parliament job in the past, and most importantly, that they created fake documents, so they ordered fake agendas on the internet from previous year to pretend he had actually worked for the European Parliament. So if he runs for election, he will face that in front of him. The second is that the Rassemblement National, the Front National, have always been the Le Pen brand. Like one man, one woman party, crushing all dissent. The name of the family is the name of the party. If Bardella is here, what happens if Marion, for instance, Marion Maréchal Le Pen, decides to run against him? What will be the legitimacy of this 29-year-old man to crush all possible dissent like Marine Le Pen and Jean-Marie Le Pen did? I think it is much less comfortable for them than having Marine Le Pen, the natural heir, the brand name of the party, running for president.
Now, Marine Le Pen this morning invoked Martin Luther King as a defender of civil rights with regard to this protest today. That's an unusual choice for a political grouping that has a long documented history of racism. Is this a sign of a recasting of the Nationalrally's rhetoric to attract more moderate voters, or is it just pure cynicism?
This is a sign that they really want to get the crowds behind them because this is their hope. And this is something you see everywhere in the world at the moment. When you have leaders who know that the only way they can stay outside of jail, when they can to say, when we are elected, we are above the law, this is the US of Donald Trump, this is Israel of Netanyahu, this is Hungary of Orban, you create a vicious circle when they say, we are the people, we are speaking for the crowd, and therefore, once we are in power, there is no judge who can convict us. We can never be held accountable by justice. This is, of course, a key moment for France. If this happens, if she gets that rhetoric through, if she can get this idea that the people are more important than the judge, and therefore I am above the law, this means that in 2027, if she is elected, if her party is elected, we are in a different form of democracy. Imagine what would have happened if they had won last summer the parliamentary election. What would France be today with a majority, Rassemblement National, having to live with judges convicting their presidential hopeful?
Now, there's a counter-protest today as well on the other side of Paris, which is organised by the left-wing France Unbowed and Generations parties. Do the left sense an opportunity here?
Maybe, but the problem is that they are not extremely popular. Also, France Unbowed, Jean-Luc Mélenchon might face his own trial for something relatively similar. So I think that they've not been extremely clear in the past as to whether judges should be allowed to enforce those laws. And so they are not necessarily in a position of strength. The one that have been relatively consistent with that are the majority. So for instance, François Bayrou, the current prime minister, he resigned from his job in 2017 as a justice minister, specifically because of an inquiry for something very similar to Le Pen, but they are not very popular at the moment. It's very hard to imagine them gathering crowds. So maybe, yes, an opportunity for the left to rebuild, but they are very divided at the moment. And even on that question of the rule of law and balance of power, they are not extremely united either.
Thank you very much for that. Renaud Foucart, Associate Professor of Economics at Lancaster University.
Thank you.